Welcome to The Explainer. You know the story we're always told, that global institutions like the World Economic Forum are working to make the world a better place. But what if the story we've been sold is, in their own words, partially false? Well, today, we're going to dig into our source material to uncover a century-old power game that some claim is the real engine behind the WEF.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty shocking admission, and you really got to pay attention to who's saying this. This isn't some outsider or some critic. This is Mark Carney. We're talking former governor of the Bank of England, a major player in global finance. And he's saying this on the main stage at Davos. He's openly admitting that the rules-based order, the supposed foundation of our entire global system, was built on a story that was partially false. When an insider says something like that, you have to ask, if the official story isn't the whole truth, then what is? According to our source material, the answer isn't something you'll find in today's news. It's in a strategic game that's been playing out for more than 100 years. So, to really get this, we've got to first unpack the very thing Carney was talking about, this whole idea of the international rules-based order.
For decades, this was the story you were told. I was told. We were all told. A world run by fair rules, with neutral bodies like the UN making sure everything was on the level. The goal was supposed to be stability, predictability, prosperity for everybody. A level playing field, right?
And this is where you see the huge disconnect. On one side, you have that shiny ideal of a fair system for all. But on the other, you have what the source claims is the cold, hard reality, that it's all just a cover story. Carney's admission is seen as proof that it was always a game where the most powerful players, the Anglo-American alliance, got to write the rules for everyone else and then just ignore them whenever they felt like it.
Now, the source argues this isn't some recent mistake or system that's failing. No, this is the system working exactly as it was designed to, based on a playbook that's over a century old.
This timeline really maps out the argument. It all starts back in the 19th century with the British Great Game, basically a strategy to keep rival land-based empires in check. Then, the source claims the two world wars weren't just terrible conflicts, they were catalysts that intentionally shattered the old empires of Europe. And all of that cleared the board for a totally new kind of dominance to rise up after World War II, one built not on owning land, but on controlling money. So, according to the source, this whole strategy really boiled down to two core ideas. First, geopolitically, do whatever it takes to stop Germany and Russia from ever teaming up and controlling that massive Eurasian landmass. And second, economically, get rid of the old-school empires and replace them with a slicker, more subtle empire built on controlling global finance, trade, and debt. All right, so that brings us to today. After all that history, where does a modern, seemingly neutral organization like the World Economic Forum actually fit into this century-old strategy? While on the surface, the WEF's goal sounds great, improve the world through cooperation. Who could argue with that? But the source we're looking at argues this is just the public face. Behind that facade of making the world a better place, it's claimed to be a key tool for pushing the very same Anglo-American financial agenda that the Great Game was all about. And to back this up, the source makes some, pretty explosive claims. It alleges that the founder, Klaus Schwab, was cultivated by people connected to British and American intelligence, that the forum itself was a backed project designed from the start to use this friendly language of public-private partnership to actually put corporate and financial power above the power of sovereign countries. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at what the source says are the real-world results of this hidden power dynamic. And let's focus on Europe specifically. And here we have another just jaw-dropping statement from the WEF, this time from the Belgian premier, Bart De Wever. Just listen to the words he's using to describe Europe's relationship with the US. Vassal? Slave? That is incredibly strong language, and it suggests a deep feeling among some European leaders that this isn't a partnership of equals anymore. It's a relationship of total subjugation. The source argues that this feeling of betrayal didn't just happen overnight. No, it was a deliberate four-step process. First up, dependence. Europe was made to rely on the US for its security through NATO. Step 2, hollowed out. Its economy was gutted as critical national assets, utilities, infrastructure, were sold off to foreign funds. Step 3, disarmed. Its own defense industries were torn down as it was pushed to just buy American weapons instead. And the final step, a deep feeling of betrayal, leaving a continent feeling weak, exposed, and abandoned. So all of this feeling of betrayal,
the sense of collapse. It all leads to the source's grand theory for understanding the global conflicts we're seeing play out today. A timeless battle between two totally different kinds of power.
To explain this global conflict, the source pulls from the ideas of a pretty controversial 20th century political theorist named Carl Schmitt. Now, he came up with this theory of two fundamental types of power: land powers and sea powers. And this isn't just about where you are on a map. It's about two completely different ways of seeing the world, different motivations, different ways of life.
Let's break this down. On one side, you have the sea powers. Think Venice, London, New York. They're described as these opportunistic trading hubs, almost like pirates, whose power comes from money and controlling trade routes. Their time at the top is often pretty short-lived. And on the other side, you've got the land powers, like Russia and China. They're framed as these ancient, rooted empires whose identity is all about culture, their land, and a really long, continuous history.
And this is really the key takeaway from the source material. The entire post-World War II rules-based order that we've been living in, that was the sea power at its absolute peak. But in the grand sweep of history, it was just a blip on the radar. The source claims that the global conflicts we're watching unfold right now are the direct results of those great land powers of Eurasia waking back up and reasserting their natural historical strength.
And so this entire analysis leaves us with this huge final question. If this theory is right, and a world order based on the financial power of the sea is actually giving way to one based on the continental power of the land, what does that changeover look like? What on earth happens next?